All right, we are joined now by Laurence Holmes. You can hear him on 670 The Score on Spiegel and Holmes from 2 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Laurence, it's like Caleb Williams, the news of the offseason with him seemingly never stops. First, it was the ESPN article. Then it was Albert Breer reporting that the Bears are working on his body language and pre-snap procedure this offseason. I remember talking to Albert Breer back at the Combine 2 years ago when Caleb Williams was going to be the number one overall pick. And he was very much in the know of, the Bears not being too concerned about him and the stuff that went on at USC, feeling good about drafting him. Now it seems like Ben Johnson comes in. He's like, we need to sharpen some things up with this quarterback heading into his second year before things maybe get out of control with him becoming this mega superstar in the city like Chicago. What were your takeaways and reaction to the report?
It's about what you would expect or want from a new coach coming in, is that they're going to see things that maybe other people are not going to see. It's funny though, Cassie, because I've been thinking about this a lot. Now, to be fair, I was in the Justin wars. I was a Justin plus picks guy. Okay. That's kind of how I felt. But over the last year, like especially during the draft process, the types of information that I got from people who I know who work in pro organizations, folks that I knew who worked in college, some of the rhetoric around it really kind of bothered me. And it actually pushed me over to Caleb's side because I felt like some of the things that I was hearing was unfair about him. Then you add in how bad things were from a coaching standpoint last season. I understood exactly where he was coming from. And I think most Bears fans understood where he was coming from too, with what happened last year and where quarterbacks go to die and all of that stuff. His position is clearly defensible. And he was proven right by a lot of things that have happened with the Bears over the last year. But I think that there are a lot of people who are waiting for something to grab onto when it comes to criticism of Caleb Williams. And I'm not here to say that the criticism is invalid, but I think there are a lot of people that didn't necessarily like him in the draft process that have been sharpening knives until the opportunity came where they can get at him. I like that what Ben Johnson has said is like, I'm going to look at the tape and I'm going to make up my mind about what Caleb Williams is and where he needs to improve. I don't know if I necessarily buy the body language thing. Then again, I am old enough to have covered Jay Cutler. And I do remember that was one of the things that people didn't like. I think people will accept the body language stuff if there is a lot of production. And for the most part, I thought Caleb Williams did a good job of producing last year, but it can't hurt. He is the de facto leader of the team. It can't hurt to try and be better at leadership. And if that's what Ben Johnson is asking him to do, I'm okay with it as long as Caleb's okay with it. And so far, it seems like he's okay with it.
Yeah, and I think with the body language stuff, like I'm sure if we were to go back and watch every game in hindsight, now that this report is out there, maybe we would think differently about it because we'd be obviously looking for it more. But I think when you're in the moment, in the context of what Caleb Williams was going through in his rookie season, a 10-game losing streak, fired coordinators, fired head coach, I don't know that it was too surprising. I think we all questioned DJ Moore's body language. So it's like, what's the difference between Caleb Williams and DJ Moore outside of him being your quarterback? But then again, he was still in his rookie season and just kind of like a wandering soul for much of it because he didn't have much direction in it. I think the pre-snap procedure, that to me was evident because there were so many times where we saw the snap getting off like late in the clock. And so to me, that's more of something that, all right, Ben Johnson, I know there was troubles with Shane Waldron getting the play to Caleb Williams in that operation, but as someone who comes in with play calling experience and a resume that supports itself, that to me is more of something that you're like, all right, we will be able to see like this translate onto the field, hopefully week one, because of the experience that Ben Johnson has with calling plays. And also Caleb Williams should be more, familiar with the procedure of, being in the NFL and getting it in your headset. We've already seen him go through it at OTAs of figuring out how that communication is going to work.
Your point about what was expected and what happened with Caleb in his rookie season is so valid. If I feel like the Bears kind of thought that they could just kind of drop Caleb into everything and that everything was going to be fixed. And I understand that to a certain degree. If you have a quarterback that you think is generational, he's supposed to fix your problems. But it's clear that it wasn't the right match with Waldron and that Eberflus wasn't prepared to handle the offense and what the offense should look like. So here you have this rookie trying to figure out how all of this works. And in cases of what he said, doing some of this stuff on his own, which to me is a huge red flag. Now, Ryan Poles has made the adjustment. He's moved on from Waldron. He's moved on from Eberflus. And now I think he has a partner. That's the way that I look at what's going on with Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson. To me, it feels more like a partnership of what they have going on. And now you have a better line of communication. You have a better overall plan. And that's where I think Caleb Williams is going to benefit from the fact that there's a real plan that's in place now. And now when you have expectations and the expectations are laid out, everything in his football profile to this point says that Caleb Williams can excel when given guidelines of what he is expected to do. He's clearly a competitor. You can see it in the way that he goes about playing the games. The fact that he didn't want to leave games. He didn't want to sit out games where the Bears were eliminated from playoff contention last year. I think all of that speaks to a young man who wants to be great. And now I think he has the coach that is in position to push him to be great.
I'm curious, just from his psyche standpoint, how much like his motivation changed when Ben Johnson got hired, because we did hear it in his tone of voice of like, he got what he wanted. Like, he asked for the hot coordinator that was the offensive mind that has shown success the last 3 years in Detroit, and he got it. And I feel like even Declan Doyle, that one point in rookie minicamp when he said, Caleb Williams is trying to get this right. He's staying in the indoor facility, going through walkthroughs by himself. We never really heard that from any coach last year. So if I had to guess, and one, too, it plays into the fact that Caleb Williams didn't have the good rookie season. He was the number 1 overall pick. Then there's Jaden Daniels, who went off and was offensive rookie of the year. So they're always going to be compared to one another. But if the psyche of Caleb Williams has changed at all because he feels like everything is aligned, and we know now from the ESPN article that he did not feel that way going into his rookie season when he was being drafted by the Bears with Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus, who, now that it's out there, like, they just didn't feel confident in those coaches to be the ones to get the best out of Caleb Williams.
If we're looking for little moments of leadership, I think that one of those little moments that you can look at is Ben Johnson's opening press conference and Caleb sitting front row. Mm-hmm. It's clear that he was looking for something in a coach that he now at least has it seemingly in Ben Johnson. Someone who understands. Like, I go back and, like, when I think about the Wickersham piece and I think about what Albert Breer wrote, I start thinking about all those moments in last season, and stuff starts to make sense. You know, I use the Kendrick Lamar line, the evils of Lucy were all around me, so I went running for answers. And that's when Caleb had the press conference, when you heard him say, oh, I spoke to my college coach. I didn't call him. He called me. That was, you're reaching out to Lincoln Riley. That says to me, he's like, this doesn't feel right. And I need someone to explain to me what's going on. And I'm not getting necessarily what I need from my offensive coordinator or my head coach, that he went back to people that he trusted. Like, all of this stuff now in retrospect makes a lot of sense. When you have the still moment of Waldron laughing on the sidelines and Caleb kind of like, why is this guy laughing? We're getting pounded. I'm getting destroyed and nothing's funny. Like, I think there's a lot of people who can respect that perspective and that point of view and understand, while also the two things can be true. While also, if Ben Johnson puts a sizzle reel together of all of that and says, look, man, you are the face of this franchise, and we need you to instill confidence in not just the people that are with you inside the huddle and on the sideline, but the fans of this team too. It may seem trite, but I understand it. But yeah, I I have an immense amount of empathy for everything that Caleb Williams went through, all that was asked of him. And I think that even with everything that went wrong last season, it was a productive enough season for anyone to look at it, if you're looking at it honestly, and go, there was some success inside that season for him. And when we go back to the draft, I really like Jaden Daniels. I liked him since he was a freshman at Arizona State. And I kind of thought that the difference between the two guys wasn't as big as most people made it out to be, where if most people had it here, I kind of had it here between the two guys. But you look at the system that Jaden Daniels was able to go into, what Cliff Kingsbury built for him was reminiscent of what he was doing at LSU. And it made the transition a lot easier and more comfortable. And there was a level of trust that was clear from what it is that you were seeing. So I'm not surprised that he jumped ahead, because I think that his talent level is really top tier. And I think that he got the coaching that he needs. I'm so excited to see what Caleb does now, because now I think he's got a plan and someone that can help him put that plan together that's going to allow him to let his natural gifts show.
Ryan Poles could be somewhat at fault for not giving him a veteran quarterback in the room last year. He rights the ship by bringing in Case Keenum this year, who, if I had to imagine, is watching film with Caleb Williams. He can kind of show him his routine that's kept him in the league for so many years. How big of a deal do you think Case Keenum will be to Caleb Williams?
Huge. And I brought it up on the score. Like Speaks and I talked about it when we were looking through free agents. We did a whole thing as free agency was starting. Yeah, name the three free agents that you want. And Case Keenum was on my list. And it's exactly for what you're talking about. And now we know, like inside of the Breer piece, there needs to be a peer, not a coach, that a quarterback can go to and talk about some of these issues. It's just different. And I understand that Tyson Bagent has NFL starting experience, but it's not, 13 years in the league and seeing all these different stuff. Plus, Tyson's trying to make sure that he is still a relevant quarterback.
Tyson's trying to get on the field.
That's right. That's right. That man is trying to play, and I respect that. I respect that. That doesn't mean he's not helping Caleb, but it's different when a guy like Case Keenum knows exactly what his role is. His role is to be in the room for both of them, to help them both out in navigating what it's like to be an NFL player. And there's a difference between watching film and watching film effectively. You and I could watch film. That doesn't mean that we're doing it the way that a coach that is game planning for the next week wants you to do it. And learning that stuff, it's not innate. It's not something that everyone, especially rookies, have the moment that they walk onto an NFL field. And learning the difference between how Lincoln Riley wants film watched versus how Shane Waldron wants it watched, if he even wanted it watched, or how Ben Johnson now wants it watched, is different, like what you're looking at. And so to have someone that he can go to and say, here's what I'm seeing. Are you seeing the same thing? Why do they want us to use this particular concept? What's going on this play? I'm not quite getting it. That's important to have into the room. And from my time of covering the league on a daily basis to people that I talk to now that are still in the league, you're right. Like they are behind you on the idea of maybe it wasn't the right mix in the room before. But I give Ryan Poles credit. It takes a lot to go, we didn't quite get that right, and then go and say, well, here's how we're planning to go and fix it. And I think this is a step to doing that. It's one of the smartest. They've made a lot of good moves this offseason. The Case Keenum move is one of the smartest moves they've made.
And I will give Ben Johnson credit for coming out and just stating the obvious with the Caleb Williams article, because that would not have happened in the Matt Eberflus era. We've already seen he's an interesting coach because he's like new school in the fact that he's all into the analytics and stuff, but he's old school in the way he is interacting with his players on the field. We've seen the intensity come out in just one OTA practice. We saw him get after Cole Kmet, and everyone's like, if you get after Cole Kmet, you know something's wrong. And you know that details were not being paid attention to in the past. How do you think the intensity that he brings, and we've already seen in this offseason session, translates, and how do you think the players respond to it?
Cassie, a couple weeks ago, Speaks and I had Lomas Brown on the show, the Detroit Lions legend and broadcaster. And before he got off the phone with us, he said, pay attention to those practices. The practices are going to be different under Ben Johnson. So we were like, well, what do you mean? He said, there's going to be a level of intensity and accountability that those boys haven't seen yet. And now, like, hearing your reports, people who've been out there saying, oh, Ben Johnson's that guy. Like, he is paying attention. It's not just going through the motions. He wants to set a tone. And that's what new coaches do. And he knows offense. Like, he clearly understands what his concepts are. And if you look at the hires on his staff, he has hired a bunch of disciples that also know what it is that he wants done. So he's going to push. And I like that. The no block, no rock thing. I like that everyone is going to be accountable. If you want to flourish in this offense, you have to give Ben Johnson everything that he is asking for, or else he'll find someone else to do it. And when you look at the success of what's happened in Detroit over the last 3 seasons, you go, okay, that's exactly what I want to see happen with the Bears, is that level of growth. The challenge that is happening with Bears players, they're going to have to get used to it. But I think in the long run, it's going to be beneficial, and it's going to put the Bears on a path that hopefully puts them in a position to compete.
Yeah, and I think that's Ben Johnson, and as you mentioned, like his coaching staff, I think it's everyone, because we've all heard Eric Bieniemy with his cuss words that he's very colorful, which I love. I think it's great, and I don't think it's entertainment. I think he's genuine, and that is his personality. And so, but it's funny because like the cameras are set up right in front of him. He knows exactly what's going on, and he's like, I am not going to change.
Nope.
And I think that I respect that 100%. It's also with Antoine Randall L, where we've seen videos and saw it a little bit at practice. Like, he's almost in the drill with the wide receivers, running alongside DJ Moore. Or Al Harris, someone who played in the league. And one thing that stood out when I talked to him was like, I will never ask a player to do something that I didn't already experience. And it's him having like touch points with players, walking Tyreek Stevenson through why his body should be faced one way or the other. Like, all that, that's not something that we saw with the last coaching staff. So I think that's all going to be beneficial to everyone. I also think that's why there's going to be better relationships between players and coaching staff, because you're already seeing them being coached harder and being held accountable, maybe in different ways from the past, but that's exactly what they asked for. So I think that's exactly what you're going to see.
I really like the changes to what I expect the Bears offense is going to be this year. And I think it's going to make life easier for Caleb Williams once he gets a hold of it. And I keep thinking about what happened with Jared Goff. Now, Goff put up incredible numbers in LA. This is 1 of 1. So I'm not trying to throw shade. You look at the difference in the player, and some of that is maturity, some of that is buy-in, some of that is scheme. All of that stuff came together for Jared Goff, and we saw him put up incredible numbers. I think Caleb Williams has more talent than Jared Goff. And because of that, it's exciting to think about what he could look like if he can just do some of the basic stuff that Goff did. And Goff did it at an extremely high level of proficiency. If he can touch that, then there are going to be those moments where Caleb Williams has to make a play, or has to do something exciting, or has to throw on the run, running to his left and then throwing back to his right and throwing a dart. That type of special stuff that he can do is going to be accentuated by what this offense is all about.
And I think Ben Johnson also believes he has more talent than Jared Goff. Final question. this division, I feel like I don't know where the Bears are going to finish. If you were to take a guess, how does this division end up shaking out at the end of the year?
I would like some clarity on who's quarterbacking the Vikings, because until Aaron Rodgers,
Not JJ McCarthy?
until Aaron Rodgers is in Pittsburgh, I'm uncomfortable because I could see him continuing the Favre arc and end up in Minnesota.
He's making a return to Soldier Field regardless then.
Yeah, that's why what he said was so brilliant yesterday. It's like, oh yeah, there's a team out there that's going to be at Soldier Field. That's right. Pittsburgh and the Vikings are both going to be there. So, but yeah, I think the Bears will find themselves in competition I think Detroit is still really good. I think the Bears are going to find themselves in competition with the Vikings and Packers for second place. I just hope that Jordan Love hasn't been fully actualized yet, because that guy is trouble. And it looks like he's starting to get it, and they're starting to give him the weapons that he needs.
Does Caleb Williams throw for 4,000 yards?
Yes.
Love it. We'll end on that. Laurence Holmes, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you.
And the Offseason is now available on Spotify, Odyssey, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.